We hear it all the time, right? Artificial intelligence is going to revolutionize healthcare. It promises this incredible future of personalized precision medicine. But what if that shiny new future is being built on some of the biggest, oldest mistakes of medicine's past?
And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi future. This change is happening incredibly fast. Right now, the healthcare industry is adopting AI 2.2 times faster than pretty much any other part of the economy. So as we race to overhaul how we diagnose and treat diseases, you have to ask, are we moving a little too fast? Because that brings us to the big, crucial question. In our rush to code this new future, what if we're just teaching these powerful new systems our oldest and maybe our most dangerous mistakes?
You see, the bias that we're seeing in medical AI, it's not just some simple bug in the software. The problem starts way, way earlier. It's actually a cascade, a flow of distortion that comes from the very foundation of modern medicine itself.
So let's start at the very beginning of that cascade. For decades, a huge chunk of medicine was built around a single reference point, the 70-kilogram male body. This became the, quote, default human, the standard that everyone else was measured against.
And you might think this is all ancient history, but it's really not. All the way up until 1993, the FDA actually banned most women from taking part in early-stage drug trials. And even after they finally lifted that ban, the gap never really closed. Today, women still only make up about 41% of participants in major clinical trials.
This bias goes way deeper than just human trials, though. It starts at the most basic level of research. In preclinical neuroscience, for every one study on female animals, there are 5.5 studies on male animals. That is a staggering imbalance, and that is the skewed foundation our entire medical knowledge base is built on.
Okay, so we've got this original sin happening in the lab. How in the world does that become a biased algorithm on a computer today? Well, that bias gets passed down through a 5-layer cascade of distortion, and it looks a little something like this.
It all starts with that biased research we just talked about. That leads to flawed clinical guidelines. Then, those guidelines shape how doctors actually practice medicine, which creates corrupted data in our health records. And finally, AI learns from that corrupted data, basically amplifying the original mistake. So let's walk through each of these steps.
Let's start with layer 2, flawed guidelines. For years, the standard test for a heart attack used a, quote, universal threshold for a protein called troponin. The only problem? Universal was actually calibrated for men. When researchers finally introduced a lower, sex-specific threshold for women, they suddenly identified a whopping 42% more cases of heart injury that were just being completely missed before.
But here's where it gets even crazier. We hit layer 3, practice. So even after this better test was introduced, a huge study found that clinicians didn't really change their behavior. Sure, they flagged more women who were at risk, but they didn't act on that new information. They offered them way fewer treatments than men. So the new data was there, but the old habits, they died hard.
And this brings us to the data itself, the stuff the AI actually learns from. For a condition like endometriosis, which affects 1 in 10 women, how long do you think the average woman waits for a correct diagnosis? 7 years. Think about what happens during those 7 years. Her health record becomes a journal of the system's failure, not her biology. It fills up with incorrect codes for things like IBS or anxiety. So by the time the right diagnosis is finally made, the data is already corrupted. This becomes the ground truth. This flawed reality is what we feed our AI systems.
And this is where we get to the final and frankly the most dangerous layer of this cascade. Because an AI doesn't see all this corrupted data and think, let me fix this. No, it sees a pattern and it scales that pattern with machine-level certainty. It puts it on steroids.
And the results can be just shocking. In a 2023 study from Stanford researchers, they gave ChatGPT a classic heart attack scenario. And the model, it recommended the correct treatment, but only for white men. It completely left out women and minority patients, perfectly replicating decades of clinical bias.
And this is not a theoretical problem. When clinicians start to rely on these biased AI tools, it can actually hurt their performance. Studies have shown these tools can reduce a doctor's diagnostic accuracy by over 11%, basically because they start to trust the faulty machine over their own judgment.
You can see this imbalance playing out in the very data these advanced AI are trained on. So in the massive UK Biobank dataset, both diabetes and endometriosis affect about 10% of women. But the dataset has over 19,000 cases of diabetes and only a few thousand for endometriosis. So the AI learns that one is common and the other is rare, not because of biology, but because of systemic underdiagnosis.
But the problem actually goes even deeper. Even if you have perfectly balanced data sets, research shows that AI is still less accurate for women. So why is that? It's because the algorithms learn that male pattern symptoms are the signal for a disease, and that female variations are just statistical noise. It literally learns to see the disease through a male lens.
Okay, so this all sounds pretty bleak, right? The foundation is clearly broken. But here's the thing about AI. This isn't just a crisis, it's a rare opportunity. We have the chance not just to patch up the system, but to rebuild it from the very first line of code, and to get it right this time. And it all starts with redefining what we call ground truth. Right now, our ground truth is that corrupted health record. The real ground truth needs to be a mix of objective biomarkers, patient-reported symptoms, and a real understanding of female life stages. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it means building sex-aware rules right into the code, so the system understands biological differences from the get-go. It means designing health records that actually track key female life stages, like menopause. It means treating what a patient says about their own body as crucial data, not just some anecdote. And yeah, it means holding tech companies accountable to prove their models work equally well for everyone. And this is where the opportunity gets really exciting. For decades, female biology, with its cycles and life stages, was seen as too variable for research. But for an AI, that variability isn't a problem. It's rich, dynamic data. The menstrual cycle is now being called a fifth vital sign. It's an incredible source of information for building smarter, more personalized AI.
And this is the crucial takeaway. Solving for women's health isn't about fixing some niche issue. It is the ultimate stress test. If you can build an AI that understands the dynamic complexity of female physiology, you will have built a better, more precise system for absolutely everyone.
So we really are at a crossroads. We have this incredible technology with the power to transform human health. The only question is whether we're going to use it to lock in the errors of the past, or if we'll finally build a future that is designed for all of us.